I was going to say, how do you see the cloud developing in future? But I have a feeling you're going to say more towards a hybrid model.
I do. I think the hybrid gives you the best of both worlds. I mean, the short answer to that is, it's going to give the business or the consumer an option to have data where they feel safe, right? And I think the other thing about hybrid is going to be about data sovereignty. And security. So ensuring that the business that uses the cloud has an option to have it onshore. And I think that's key. I mean, for us, when we were evaluating, and it's no secret, OutSystems use Amazon behind us. A key factor for us was the ability to have European data centers, APAC data centers, because I think as organizations think about their cloud strategy, they're going to think about data sovereignty and they're going to think about performance. So I think they're going to become highly performant. I think the ability to scale up and the ability to add more fuel behind your cloud environment easily with one click in a seamless way is going to be important, and where you put data is going to be very important to you as well.
What can an Agile platform do to help organisations to improve their working practices? I know you've written about this.
Very good question. I mean, it bridges the gap between IT and the business, right? And I think business organisations, to be competitive, have to deliver innovation. They have to do things better than their competition, but they don't know I mean, a lot of the projects we see, they have a great business understanding of what they want. That business understanding only came about 3-4 weeks ago. So how it's not fully spec'd, it's not fully scoped, but they need to deliver it, and they need to deliver it in timeframes that are more tighter than ever before. So working in an agile way, you can have the business next to you saying, let's look at this flow, let's look at this page, tell me how you think it should work, tell me how it exists in your mind, and they go back and they build it based on an understanding, based on a business objective, and then they come back and they start to tweak it and to change it. And it's okay for the business to say, you know what, we've made a mistake, we don't want that, or we've realized we've done some market testing and we've realized we don't need that. And IT aren't just going like this, so there isn't a frustration between the two teams, but instead it's like, okay guys, let's try and get this in this release, and let's put this to the next release. And there's that harmony, that joint effort. And I think what I've seen is when using a true agile approach and you're being able to bridge that gap, both are motivated to help each other succeed. And it's that delivery and that acknowledgement that you're able to say to the business, it's okay if you don't know everything, as long as we work it out together. And I think using an agile approach with the right tools bridges that gap significantly.
We hear a lot about project failure, particularly in the IT arena.
Mm-hmm.
You have Connecting for Health, the National Health Service, and that was unfortunately turned out to be a little bit of a disaster. But I mean, there are elements that worked. I mean, what's your understanding about IT project management in the UK at the moment? And are there any bits of advice you could give project managers from your own sort of understanding?
It's a very good question. My understanding of project management failures in the UK, I think if I take that back to my experience, I've only had the experience of when I was working at Accenture and now when I was working at OutSystems, and the key differential is going back to what I was talking about a minute ago, is building the gap between business and IT and being able to support change. I think being able to deliver very innovative applications, or being able to deliver applications that the business doesn't quite know what it's going to do in its entirety, is something that the IT team need to be able to support. Gone are the days where everything is spec'd and scoped to the nth degree. That model, that world, even the enterprises we're dealing with at OutSystems, where they're not using OutSystems for certain types of applications, are still not scoping everything. They can't spend 2 years scoping everything. I remember looking about TescoDirect.com. They spent 4 years building that. They had scoped it to the nth degree, and when they delivered it, they realized that they hadn't thought of tablet at the time, so they had to go back to the drawing board, right? So yeah, oops, right? So my point there being is that the experience I give is that the project managers have to be nimble. They have to be willing to also take IT's constraints or IT's limitations into consideration and manage the business accordingly. But they also need to allow the IT to understand that the business the way of working today has changed in knowing everything up front, and the business needs to find a working model that supports change.
in information about you, you sort of claim to be an advocate of advanced technology solutions. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
When you say advanced, are you talking about, in context, are you talking about different ways of delivering software applications?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the pressure on IT is going to increase, and it's going to increase more and more because the demand from every unit of the business, finance, HR, marketing, sales operations, we all need tools. I just today was asking about 3 enhancements to our order management system as I was putting things through, as I was putting orders for our business. As we're growing here, I need to become more efficient. As I'm out on the road, there are different data points I didn't feel one of our internal systems captured. I know HR with the performance reviews we've got coming up for mid-year are asking for changes within applications. I think that organisations need to find different ways of getting more out of the same resources. And I'm not saying OutSystems is the only way to do that, but I think you need to get your mind away from thinking deep code. There are certain types of applications, absolutely, where you need to write code that's very, very well thought out, let me rephrase that. There are certain types of applications that require coding by hand in a very certain way that are right. But I think as you look at the vast majority of applications, you need to think about getting away from thinking about how the code works to how the business application works and how it's well constructed, well architectured. And if you can focus on that and understand how you can build a scalable enterprise web and mobile application and not worry, oh well, I didn't code it myself. Well, that's okay. Your job as a developer is not just about the code. Yes, you should be with a platform that allows you to get into the code when needed. The platform should be fully extensible, but use tools that will allow you to get your knowledge on how applications should be built and architected as opposed to how you should code them. The other benefit there is being able to bring more people onto projects. If it's a coded project, if it's lines and lines of code that only the person who wrote it can understand, getting support on a project, rolling people on and off, maintaining and enhancing it becomes infinitely harder. If you can think of a way of where you can map it through model development, you're going to see significant productivity gains. I think you're not going to get more resources, but you are going to get the request to deliver more applications. In addition to that, every application you deliver this year is going to have to be maintained next year, and you're not necessarily going to get, the organisations I speak to don't always get more of a maintenance budget. So you need to think carefully about, well, I've delivered another 7 apps this year. Is that going to go into my maintenance budget? How am I going to maintain the 100 odd apps that I already have, plus the 7 I delivered, plus the 15 I've got to do for the rest of the year? So it's just understanding that something needs to change, otherwise you are gonna drown.
Just a random question that's come to me. Do you think a lot of software developers aren't, when they're writing code, etc., they're not thinking enough of the business endpoint? So they're thinking about writing good code, but they're not actually thinking far ahead or with their business mind switched on.
I wouldn't say they're not, I'm saying they can't. And that's the problem I see. It's not that they're unable to or they're resistant to, just don't have enough hours in the day. I think developers that I speak to are so overworked with the amount of demand for the business that they do not. I was speaking to a developer the other day and he can't even take his annual leave. He can't take some break because he has a project that they're behind on that they need to deliver. Otherwise, it just damages the relationship between business and IT. So it's not that they don't, it's that they can't, but they need to succeed. And it's not only for the developer to succeed as an individual in our profession. It's to do with the developer and the organisation to succeed against its competition, because that mind shift is changing. In the 13 months I've been here with Gartner, with all the work Forrester are doing, I'm seeing a shift in the pressure to just write lines of code as opposed to build enterprise web and mobile business applications. And it's called, that category is, I think Forrester call it low code, Gartner call it model driven. We are starting to see a category form where they need to do something differently.